Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Uzoma Okoro Podcast. Real conversations with real entrepreneurs. This is a very, very, very special day. We have an extremely special guest. So this is our inaugural episode, and the point and the goal of this podcast is to offer real solutions to real world problems for real entrepreneurs. We want to get down to the meat of it and be helpful in a way that I don't believe a lot of other venues are for people who really want to get in and do business ownership and maintain, a solid business throughout the duration. So that's the point of the podcast. And to that effect, we have a very special guest in our inaugural episode. Give me a little bit of leeway. I'm going to announce you by your proper title. So I'm going to be a little long-winded here, but we have a 30-year civil engineer, a professional engineer. We have father, husband, brother, and all sorts of other fantastic things that we're about to get into. But we want to introduce Chief Daniel Nkalemchukwu Okoro, also known as my father. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Dad.
Thanks, son, for having me.
No, thank you for coming. This is exciting for me. I think you're easily, outside of being my father, one of the most interesting and entrepreneurial spirits that I've ever met. So I'm interested to get down to it and us to have this discussion, this long overdue conversation, so that we can hopefully add value to the people that are watching this podcast and help them really make their goals and dreams come true. So
Wonderful.
you ready to rock?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay, so give us a little background on yourself, your technical expertise, your career path thus far, and then let's navigate those questions into the realm of entrepreneurship, where I think is really going to have a lot of value for our listeners. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, where do I start? Let me just give you a little bit about growing up in Nigeria. How it started, my dad was so obsessed with education. That's the best way. And my mother was the homemaker who took care of everything. We always said, 9 of us, my parents had 9 of us. And we always said, well, my mother is always the smartest one, but my dad made all the important decisions he got from my mom, And coming to United States was very, very important in our family for me to study, because after the Civil War, which I was a part of, I was a child soldier during the Civil War. When the war ended, I had to go back to school, finish high school, and found myself in the United States to continue my studies. The experiences that led to where I am today grew up from that little village in our mama in Nigeria that brought me into United States. And everything I've done came from that background. But coming to this country also, a country of a lot of opportunities, I found out that education was key. I started to be a medical doctor.
A medical doctor, so that's
Right.
only a distinction that you'll hear in the Nigerian diaspora. It's not just a doctor, it's a medical doctor, to be clear.
That's right.
Okay.
But about halfway through my junior college, I switched to engineering for a good reason. Financial, working.
What type of engineer did you switch to?
Well, honestly, I didn't know. I knew I was going to be taking maths, physics, and chemistry, all the classes that you need to be an engineer. I didn't make any decision. I said, this is what the engineering I was going to do. I just kept taking the right classes that led to any kind of engineering. Because as an engineer, the first 3 or 4 years, all the engineers take about the same classes. It's just the last year and a half that, people branch into the special civil, mechanical, electrical, and all that.
So let's branch into that a little bit. I have 2 very specific questions. You talked about being a child soldier. You talked about coming to America. Yes. And you talked about becoming an engineer here in the U.S. So as somebody who escaped those atrocities and still came over here with a dream, would you still, now having 30 years of practical working experience, would you still encourage people to actually go the more risky route of entrepreneurship, or would you stress, since education and traditional forms of jobs were more kind of akin to what you grew up in, or would you say, go find a job, get a paycheck? If somebody is at an impasse and is trying to make a decision to go left or right, how would you, with given your experience, advise them?
Well, life decisions you make, the decisions you make in life depends on the moment where you are in your life. The experiences, your background. Based on my background, my goal that I took, I didn't have what I call good mentoring.
Okay.
If I had somebody to say, okay, son, go this direction, do this, do that,
Right.
and I would have been able to internalize them and say, this is best for me.
Right.
But coming from a foreign country, all I saw was school, education, and help people back home at that moment. So at that point in time, education. But there's a little bit of entrepreneurship also that was going in my mind while I was in school, because I did other things like selling things. I've always been of the theory, if you can buy something for $1 and sell it for $2, you're making profit.
So let me be clear on what I'm hearing you say is that you've always had the entrepreneurial spark, but you might not have necessarily early on had the correct mentorship to kind of manifest or help lead you into the right direction on where to get started as an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Okay.
An example is when I was in college, I remember when I was in junior college in Merced, what I found to be true was that a lot of people had pools, swimming pool,
Okay.
but they always needed people to clean them. And I did some of their pool cleaning. I said, well, if I can get 5, 10 pools to clean and hire people to do it, I can still be doing my classes while other people are working for me. So that was the kind of thoughts that I had when I was in junior college.
Right.
And sometimes like I told you, I didn't have good mentorship or good capital to start these things.
So you had the ideas, you had the hustle, you had the work ethic, and even you had the education,
Right.
but you necessarily didn't have that last piece of mentorship to kind of really,
Exactly.
focus all your attention.
Exactly.
So I want to dig into a little bit deeper what that means, because I think mentorship is a missing aspect for a lot of people, right?
Exactly.
So, Kung Fu. You used to have us watch the old Kung Fu movies back in the day, right?
Yes.
The voiceover,
Right.
the voice is always trailing what's the actual action.
Right.
The Shaw Brothers, the 36 Chambers of Kung Fu.
I'm glad you remember all that.
What else do we watch? The Iron Fist,
Yeah.
the Eagle Clan, all that.
60%.
Okay. All right. So here's my question. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
In every single one of those old Kung Fu movies, it was all about mentorship, a master and an apprentice, correct?
That's right.
So, and it's been said that because those Kung Fu experts, they're never in the village with the people. They're always off in the hills or the mountains, and then the young Padawan, the young learner, whatever, has to always go out and seek them,
Right.
find them, and then
Right.
train where they're at.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, with regards to you, a young soldier coming over here, being educated in one of California state schools, when you get here, now knowing what you know, right, and kind of going along the Kung Fu path, speaking to the young man yourself, how would you encourage yourself to go find a master? And then when you get there, master or mentor, what questions would you ask them to prompt them to be your mentor?
Well, one way to answer that question is having a hindsight. I'll answer that question by telling you what I could have done if I had the opportunity to go back and do that. And I don't remember, maybe you remember when we used to go to Chinese restaurants to eat. And I said, this is the way, because my parents did something like that, where you own a shop or a store downstairs and you live upstairs.
Right.
Now, that is a beginning of somebody who would like to get their feet wet, on entrepreneurship, where you make your first money, you buy property or you rent property, have things downstairs and live upstairs and grow with that,
Right.
Well, I never had that opportunity. One thing I heard based on my experience that I wanted to do, but I never had the support to do it, is that I always believed that making money, even to today, starts in a farm, having a farm. And my first goal was to buy a little farm, put a little mobile home in there, and live there, maybe with a dog or something
You see, you're more than an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If I may, you're an artist. You're a farmer. You're many things.
Right.
But I want to, for the listeners, I want to hone in on that point because the visual that I have right now is a 20-year-old you at any USA campus, any university, any college in the nation right now, is watching with the same hustle, the same motivation, the same education as you, but watching potential entrepreneurship mentors walk by them without knowing the question to ask. So what I'm getting at is using your hindsight, because a mentor sometimes is not going to come up to you. You have to initiate the process. What would you say? What would you do to snare your mentor? Give that 20-year-old the line that they should walk up to the entrepreneur and ask to cultivate that mentorship in their life. What would you encourage them to ask?
Well, you have to ask the right questions and make the right approaches. When I was in Merced, one of the things I did to ease problem for myself, which could be the direction, I wrote to the church.
Okay.
I wrote to the church. I said, I'm a student from Nigeria, and things are a little bit difficult for me. My rents are difficult. I may need some help to keep going because I'm an engineering student in Merced College. 2 days after I submitted that letter in the church, a priest came and picked me up.
Okay.
To live with them.
Interesting.
For a year and a half. Now, all it took was that letter. So you have to go out and search, hang out with people that are succeeding, people that are doing the right things,
And do you have to initiate that contact?
You have to, because people are not just going to come to you and say, do you want to be successful? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? No, you have to show, you have to initiate the process,
right.
And that is, whether you go out to a farm, see a farmer doing their work and even help them.
Right.
And I did that. When I was in Merced, we used to take a break from the university and go help farmers,
right.
For free. And they give you fruits and everything that you harvest from there. So you have to do make the initiation.
You have to stand out.
You have to stand out.
One more.
And you have to
more.
do it when I want to stress that you have to do it when you're young. We have a saying in Africa, it's good to look for the black goat in the daytime.
Okay.
Because when it gets dark, it's difficult to find.
I don't know if these are actual quotes because you say them so often, or if they're just kind of your own thoughts passed off as ancient wisdom. Either way, either way, it's okay. I buy it.
My parents. This is from my parents, my grandparents, my grandmothers, as I've told you.
Right.
And it is a.
But you had a 30-year career as an engineer for a state agency, correct?
Right.
Why didn't you make the jump 30 years ago into entrepreneurship?
Well, this is very simple. Well, before I graduated, and this is very important, my last 2 semesters, I took 22 units each because you were on the way. And because
so it's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. You were the motivation. You were born
to get a job. No, let's talk. It's a very brass tacks conversation.
Right.
I want us to hold on. I want us to be honest with everybody about the reality, so that we can get people really beyond the practical things. So you were just about to blame me for why you didn't
No,
become.
no, I'm not. No,
Go
you were the motivation.
Okay.
Let me put it this: you were the motivation. That's what I meant
Right.
to say, because when you have responsibility,
Right.
when you have a child,
Right.
you've heard me say this. You have to do what you have to do to feed that child,
Right.
because that child didn't pick you. You picked that child.
And these are fantastic life lessons.
Right.
But again, from the vein of entrepreneurship,
Right.
you said two things. You said you have to do it when you're young.
Right.
And you said I was coming, so you had to basically get a job and feed me, which I greatly appreciate. By the way, thank you for the food. But would you now, hindsight, have done it differently? Would you have taken more risk? Would you have not gotten a job and tried to start your own business 30 years ago, even though I was coming knowing what you know now?
At that point in time, no, but soon after that,
Okay.
Because I got a job as an engineer right away. Maybe I should have.
What does an engineer right away do, by the way?
Well, an engineer right away, depending on what I was, what they call a pretreatment engineer, which is what we're doing, cleaning agricultural wastewater in the San Joaquin Valley for farmers.
Right.
And I was a pretreatment engineer. Because I used to take your mother to go out to Keston and take samples of the water.
Okay.
And, so your mother was a co-engineer
I
too.
thought that story was going to go left somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I thought you were going to say
so
you took out this.
we
Please
were
continue.
partner, but it's a family thing now. It's a family thing,
Yeah.
and it was great,
Right.
But maybe looking at the hindsight, I should have maybe done it a little bit more, And
So you would have taken a job for how many years and then started your own business?
well, I would have projected maybe a 5-year program,
Okay.
and 3 to 5 year program.
Okay.
Save some money, and go back to my old idea
Of?
of buying a little farm.
Now that's where we differ. And let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me set that up for you because I think this is where we have competing philosophies.
Okay.
So mine, because as you know, just like you, I have the jitterbug. I like to try different things. I tried books and movies and hot dog carts and everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I went back into the thing that I had my technical proficiency in. I'm a mechanical engineer because of you. And my wife and I started an environmental engineering firm.
Because of you, because she did that.
Because both of us, and we made millions, and we've done very well, and we're very proud of it. The point that I'm making with that, because again, I think this is where we diverge a little bit, is I think it is best practice for anybody starting off a business to start it off where they have the most technical acumen, where they have their 10 years, 10,000 hours of technical acumen. That way they can already have that box checked. And then add on I understand the financial, the marketing piece on top of it.
I agree.
But you mentioned that you would have gotten a job, maybe worked 5 years, and then gone and starting a farm. Starting a farm is completely different than running an engineering business. So why would you do something different as your money-making thing that is outside of what you have your technical proficiency in?
Okay. There are 2 ways, and I agree with everything you've said. I really agree with everything you said.
Oh, next point
But-
then. Let's just move
But
on.
no, maybe
That's rare, so
maybe-
let's leave it at that and just move on.
No, maybe a little a qualification. I'll try to put to that.
Okay.
Everybody grows up with some different type of experiences in life, and those experiences and those knowledge, like you said, education helps you make decisions at a particular time.
Mm-hmm.
My idea of going into the farm is also part engineering, in a sense that
Where's my sound effects? It sound like
Yeah,
it sound like a bit of a stretch coming up.
no,
but
it's,
I'm all ears.
just hear me out a little bit.
The floor is yours.
Because when you go into the farm, you have to apply some technical understanding of what you're doing, and not just planting things on the ground. You have to have the business acumen, like you're doing right now, or business acumen to make it grow. And I have always believed that the biggest business, you guys have done very well, but you have better knowledge. Your engineering has put you on a very different level than the level I was, and that makes a lot of difference. I guess we have a saying.
It's very kung fu movie.
Yeah,
you saying I've become the master? I'll take it.
That's right.
I'll take it.
We have a saying. My parents used to say, we raise our children to be better than us.
Uh-huh.
Well, my parents raised me to be better than them,
Uh-huh.
and I hope I have done the same.
That's a very self-serving compliment.
Yeah. So
No problem.
so that is the more experiences, the more educated you are, the better the chances that you can get into business a little bit more comfortably.
Okay.
And even though we talk about the hindsight, what I would have done, at my age, I haven't even given up.
So we're going to talk about that too, because you haven't. So let's talk about it right now. What still, because you still want to, you worked 30 years as an engineer for the state, you did very well for yourself, but you still want to sell stuff to people. You still want to market and get out there. What is the motivation at this season in your life to be an entrepreneur?
Well, you don't stop living. You don't stop trying. Life doesn't stop at a particular age, As long as you're strong, healthy, you should be able to think ahead. The other day, I was watching a show on TV about an 82-year-old woman who is a champion of weightlifting.
Watch it now.
She started lifting 5 years before that.
Okay.
Before that, that's when she was like about 78.
Uh-huh.
Before that, she was decapitated and just lying around the house. And she said one day she woke up, went to the gym, and started lifting weights little by little.
She was decapitated, or
she was almost like bedridden.
Okay, she was.
And then she went to the gym and started lifting weights little by little to get where. So what the wisdom or the story, behind that is that you can't give up, no matter what age.
So I'm going to pair the 2 points that we've just made into one concrete ball of action for any of the entrepreneurs listening to us today. Okay. So I know you say you agree, but I think you partially agree because we've had this conversation a lot. But I want to, again, my recommendation for entrepreneurs is strongly to start your business in the area of technical acumen that you have. Meaning, and there's always an exception. And if you're truly passionate about something, again, that's not really a profit-based model all the time. I say go with your passion if that's what you want to do. But if your primary mode is, okay, this is the business that's going to feed my family and I need to produce profit from it, fish where you're at, right? If you have 10 years teaching, I wouldn't recommend going to set up a yogurt shop. I would set up something in the realm of teaching. If you have 10 years of electrical experience, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to start a clothing store. I would start a business based in the electrical business, because I've seen that work with people. And then you can translate the money and the profit that you make for that to fuel your passion. But one of the main tenets I want to drive home to people is that the things that I've seen work are people who start businesses where they have the most technical acumen. So I think about that with regards to you 30 years ago, because I think you would have been a bad engineering owner in a good way. I think you would have been, you would have taken over Silicon Valley had you had that mentorship, had you had, just one push in the direction, or maybe had I come maybe a year later, you would have. I think you would have took over the Silicon Valley because you're very smart.
Like I said, at this age, I haven't given up. But there's a limit in life as to what you can do at a particular time. And if I say, when I was an example, when I got out of college, I got a job with a company that was going to fly me all over the United States to do inspections on companies, but I'll be going from hotel to hotel and taking reports and doing inspections rather than taking a job with the state right in Fresno, you know?
Right.
And like I said, those decisions as to what you have to do depends on what your situation is at that time, you know, and what is more important to you.
Right.
Okay. So everything you have said is, I totally agree. But if somebody has a factor in their life that is more compelling to go the other way or to do something different, maybe not on the entrepreneurship, but just doing 9 to 5 to live,
Yeah.
then that is the business of working.
You hit the nail on the head, and let me elaborate on that because we really have to drive that nail home for people. Because when you say that factor could be kids.
Right.
It could be if I leave this job, I don't have anybody paying my insurance.
Right.
It could be I have health issues. I need the insurance immediately. It could be distance or proximity. It could be I don't have the family support to take care of the kids while I'm out trying to market business. There's always a factor, right? And that factor becomes a point of fear that inoculates most people from moving into entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So you can't start unless you get over that fear.
Yeah, over that fear and more important, over that concern. The thing that also helps people, that's another factor. If you stumble, because trying to get into business or entrepreneurship, you have to be willing to stumble. You have to be willing to fail.
Right.
You have to be willing to in short of a right word, be homeless. But
You're absolutely right.
But it is even better for some people. Say, for example, if I had my parents here and then I fail and fall on my flat, I can go to their house and spend some time and sleep.
And that's a really good point.
Well, I didn't have that.
Well, I had that in you.
Yeah, okay.
But do you remember what you did? So did you want, I don't know if you recall the conversation that we had when I said we were going to be starting our own business. You weren't completely sold because I had a good paying job.
Right.
So do you remember what you said?
Well, there are two things that I said initially. I think I said it to you and your wife. I said, if you guys don't do as better than what you're doing now, then you're not applying your education to the fullest.
And the other thing?
The
other thing was don't do it, basically. Let's be honest.
No, yeah. The other thing is, don't do it because you have a family to feed.
And that's the kind of crux I want to get to because you have to. Nobody on this earth loves me more than you.
That's right.
But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you have to be wary of the terrible advice from great people.
Yes.
I love you to death, but that was terrible advice because I wouldn't have started the business if I listened.
Right.
And you have to be able to push past the bad advice from people that really love you, that are really concerned about you, that really want the best for you.
Right.
And you have to believe your own delusion and blow through all of that.
Well, that is true. I mean, Bill Gates, people like Bill Gates and all this, they weren't good in school, but their teachers probably thought that this kid ain't going to be nothing.
Right.
Look at him today. So a lot of the people on the Forbes list and all these things, they went through, this is what people expect me to do, or this is what my family wants me, and this is the path I took. And they become very successful.
So what would be your recommendation on that? So because you mentioned school and risk in the same sentence, and I want to emphasize those, usually when you are on an educational path, especially if you're paying out-of-state university prices for it, it naturally meanders itself into the position of a job or career.
Right.
So what would you say if you see a kid, whether they're related to you or not, and you're like, that person is a born-bred entrepreneur. You're now the mentor or in a position to mentor. How do you tell that kid that's spending $40,000, $50,000 in their junior year, say, hey, when you get out of here, go start your own business. Be poor, be broke, stay in the basement of a one-bedroom apartment, do whatever you got to do, but don't go get a job? How would you, now you're the mentor, how would you encourage them not to go get a job or career, a traditional one?
That kind of advice would be easy for me. If I see a young man who does not have any responsibilities, he's young, he can.
What if he does? What if he has a kid on the way like you did?
Well, then the equation will change a little bit because, like I said, if you have a child, you have to find a way to take care of that child. That child is your sole responsibility. So
All right, let's run the thought process. I'm the 20-year-old in college.
Right.
I'm coming to you. Mr. Okoro, I have this opportunity in 6 months. I can go work at this state agency and make $85,000. I got a kid that's coming in 6.5 months. Perfect timing. Got my insurance, I got my benefits, got my salary. Or I can go over here and start an organic avocado farm in this field that I could buy. Tell me what to do.
Well, the question I'm going to ask you is
that's the question I got.
No. First of all, before I advise you, I'm going to ask, where is that child going to be staying at when you're pursuing your dream? Where is that child? Who's going to be taking care of? Who's going to be looking after that child? And that to me, that is the number one question I'll ask. If you don't have, say, like a mother or grandparents or somebody who can, while you're pursuing that dream to make a better life for both of you,
right,
then my advice would be get away till that child is able to take care of him or herself before you get into an adventure that might screw up you guys' life, both of you together, because you're not, what you're trying to do, you're not 100% that it's going to succeed.
Right.
You're taking a chance. At the same time, you're taking a chance with the child's life.
A little extreme. See, we're not. No, see, well, so this is where you and I. This is where you and I differ a little bit, right?
That's right.
Because my thing is, hey, go buy that farm. You and the baby gonna be broke together, I guess, for a little while. Your thing is make sure you have 2-3 years set up. But the thing that happens that in year 3, something else happens. They become a toddler. In year 6, something else happens. In year 8, and then before you know it, no offense, you've gone 30 years working for somebody.
Well, that is in a very, you're looking at things in an environment that has already been created with a lot of opportunities. I'll give you an example of what I meant.
Do tell.
Back home, where I'm from, that issue came to me, and I saw a beggar in the street crawling, and she had a baby with her, and somebody said, oh, in America, that child will be taken away from that, helpless woman in the street. I said, that would be the worst thing to do, because that child will grow up to love and appreciate that woman for what that she is doing for him, begging in the street and taking care of her child. Nobody can do that.
You see this thing here?
Right.
This is the goalpost.
Yeah, I know.
You've just moved it.
I know. know.
Let's move it back to the point that I was making.
The reason why I had to make that example is that, we both grew up different background.
My initial question.
Okay.
I'm the 20-year-old.
Okay.
I can either go get a job or go start a business.
Right.
You said, hindsight, you would start a business. Yes, I understand.
Right.
You're going to want to answer the question about the baby.
Right.
Which one would you advise me and give me the actual advice that you would give me?
Well, I would tell you simply that starting a business is a great idea. But I also, ask the same questions I asked about it. If there's a child involved, I will still ask that question, no matter.
You're a magnificent parent, but you're not a very good business mentor.
Well,
I get it.
Well,
let's call a spade a spade.
Okay, I might not be a great business mentor. Well, it's only advice, but if I had to put in
it's bad advice.
Yeah, if I had to put in my 2 cents words to help you succeed as a mentor, I'm going to say, well, leave that child with me.
You're still focused on the child. Maybe we should
take
the child from the equation.
Yeah. Now, if the child is not in the picture, it's easy. I would say...
It's not easy.
The advice would be, go ahead and do it. And I've come into that situation before. I have advised somebody who was very close to me. I said, forget about this, what you're doing here. Take this Volkswagen, go to New York and try to be a professional soccer player, and from there go to Europe.
But by that logic, nobody with children should explore entrepreneurship.
No, that's not. But you just have to be a little bit more careful,
Stable.
more stable. You have to be a little bit more understanding
Okay,
of what the decisions you're making and how it affects the child.
that's fair.
It is very, very important.
Okay.
And it may not get you with the child. It might not get you as fast as you want to work hard to be. But in the long run, if it's something that's going to take you 3 or 4 years, it might take you 10 years with a child.
If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, take a
There
plane.
you go. There you go.
Yeah, see,
there you go.
I do remember some of these things,
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
the ancient
yeah,
history is still
yeah.
subject to
Yeah, yeah.
interpretation. But so one of the questions I have for you, again, as somebody who is a multinational, one of the things that I think from an entrepreneurship standpoint that I'd love to see in my lifetime is the diaspora, the Africans in Africa and the African Americans here, come together in a cooperative, collaborative, really systematic way of doing business together. Imports, exports, media, every sector. Now, it's a long-form conversation, but one, do you ever see it happening? And two, what's the one thing? I know there's a million. What's the one first thing that we can do tomorrow to make it happen?
One, do I see it happening? Yes. In fact, I don't know if I told you this, but I saw a 24-year-old girl from Oakland who went to Ghana. And a lot of the stores now that are in Oakland,
Okay.
she makes those clothes from Ghana and ships them down to Oakland for sale. But she's an American. She's an American younger. She's 24 years old.
Okay.
But she went there when she was 21. So there are many people doing that because, number one, the mentorship is already created for everybody in the thing what they call YouTube. You can go to YouTube today and see what is happening in the remotest part of the world that you have never even heard of before. Is there. And there are young people today from 17-year-old, 16, all the way to 30, traveling all over the world.
I love the first part of what you said.
Looking for opportunity.
But I want to clear up one thing.
Okay.
With regards to the equivalency of YouTube and mentorship, because YouTube is an excellent resource for information. Right. But I have seen more times than I can count people who claim to be entrepreneurs stop at studying or stop at knowledge. You can watch 1 million YouTube videos about how to swim. At some point, you got to jump in the pool.
Yeah, but I was going to qualify that. I was going to.
Allow me, please.
I was going to qualify that. The YouTube exposes you to what is possible out there.
Okay.
Now, the best thing you can do is say, okay, how would I get there? Who would I go to meet there? Mm-hmm. Who will guide me from point A to point B? You already know what you want to do before you get there. And you go to the person, and the person will guide you. And I see that happening every day.
Okay. So it's already happening.
It's already happening.
Got it.
Excuse me.
That's okay. So that's a beautiful thing, and the fact that it's happening with a woman and somebody of such youth, is very, very encouraging. You're coughing in our brand new mics. Somebody bring a COVID.
I don't think the mic.
Somebody bring a COVID test.
I don't think the mic likes my advice.
That's okay. That's okay. But as long as you give it with love and it's coming from a well-meaning place, I'm sure people can extrapolate the value from it. But this is one of many conversations and talks that we are going to have. But I find you to be, besides my father, a very interesting person and somebody of the real entrepreneurial spirit and fire that we're looking to encourage through this podcast. So I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and speak with me. Again, first of many conversations. I have something for you. So we've designed these as kind of our mantra. And I want to give this, and we only give these to special guests, even though you're the first one, so you won't know if we're still giving it to people after you. But we only give this to special guests. And it says, I'll let you read it.
taking a break from opinion.
Taking a break from opinions. That's our ethos. You really, in order to move into the entrepreneurial mindset with fire and fervor, you have to take a break from opinions, even the opinions of your loving father.
Well, thank you. And, and I just want to say thank you for having me, and I hope I made a valuable contribution to what you're looking for or the issues that you were trying to address. You know,
you made an extremely valuable contribution. We have thoroughly enjoyed your presence, enjoyed your comments, and we will, again, first of many talks, but it was an absolute pleasure having you on here, Dad.
Thank you, son.
Give it up for Daniel, Chief Daniel Inkelenchukwu Okoro on the Uzoma Okoro Podcast.